Have you ever wondered how a nation, forged in the fires of revolution, could turn its cannons upon itself? How brothers could fight brothers, and a country could nearly tear itself apart? This is the story of the American Civil War, a conflict that redefined freedom and forged a new American identity from the crucible of conflict. It's the early 1800s. America is a nation of contrasts. In the North, industry is booming, factories are rising, and cities are expanding. Life is fast-paced, built on wages and commerce. But journey south, and the landscape changes dramatically. Here, a different economy reigns, one built on vast plantations of cotton and tobacco. This agrarian society, seemingly tranquil, is built upon a brutal and deeply entrenched foundation: the institution of slavery. For decades, a fragile peace was maintained through a series of political compromises, like the Missouri Compromise of 1820. These were legislative balancing acts, trying to keep the number of free states and slave states equal, preventing either side from gaining too much power in Congress. But these were just temporary fixes, bandages on a deep and festering wound. The nation was expanding westward, and with every new territory came a heated, bitter question. Would it be free, or would it be slave? The 1850s saw the tension escalate to a fever pitch. The Fugitive Slave Act forced Northerners to participate in the capture of escaped slaves, sparking outrage and moral indignation. Then came the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed settlers in new territories to decide the issue of slavery for themselves. This led to a violent proxy war in Bleeding Kansas, as pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers flooded the territory, clashing in a brutal preview of the war to come. Amidst this turmoil, the Supreme Court delivered a bombshell with the Dred Scott decision in 1857, declared that African Americans were not citizens and had no rights, and that the federal government couldn't ban slavery in the territories. For many abolitionists, this was the final straw. It felt like the very soul of the nation was at stake. The breaking point arrived with the presidential election of 1860. The Republican Party, a new party founded on the principle of preventing the expansion of slavery, nominated Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln's victory, without carrying a single Southern state, was seen by the South as a direct threat to their way of life and their entire economic system. In December 1860, South Carolina made a fateful decision. It seceded from the Union. One by one, 10 other Southern states followed, forming the Confederate States of America. They believed they were defending their rights, their property, and their sovereignty. The United States was now a house divided. On April 12, 1861, the first shots were fired. Confederate forces bombarded Fort Sumter, a federal fort in Charleston, South Carolina. The Civil War had begun. Both sides expected a short, glorious conflict. They were tragically mistaken. The first major battle, at Bull Run, was a shocking defeat for the confident Union Army. It was a brutal wake-up call, proving this would be a long and bloody war. The early years saw the Confederacy, with brilliant commanders like Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, achieve stunning victories against a larger, better-equipped Union Army. Lee's strategic genius often outmaneuvered Union generals in the Eastern Theater. Meanwhile, in the West, a different Union general was making a name for himself: Ulysses S. Grant. He was tenacious, relentless, and understood the brutal math of this new kind of warfare. Grant secured key victories, capturing crucial forts and gaining control of the Mississippi River, effectively splitting the Confederacy in two. But the war wasn't just fought on battlefields. It was a battle of ideas. In 1862, Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. While it didn't free all slaves overnight, it fundamentally changed the purpose of the war. It was no longer just about preserving the Union. It was now a fight for human freedom. This noble cause prevented European powers like Britain and France from recognizing and aiding the Confederacy. The summer of 1863 marked a turning point. In the East, Robert E. Lee marched his army north into Pennsylvania, hoping for a decisive victory on Union soil. The two armies clashed at a small town called Gettysburg. For 3 days, the fate of the nation hung in the balance in the bloodiest battle of the war. After the catastrophic failure of Pickett's charge, Lee was forced to retreat. The Confederacy's high-water mark had been reached. They would never again mount a major offensive into the north. On the very next day, far to the west, General Grant captured the city of Vicksburg, solidifying Union control of the Mississippi. The tide had irrevocably turned. In 1864, Lincoln promoted Grant to command all Union armies. Grant implemented a strategy of total war. He would relentlessly pursue Lee's army in Virginia, while his trusted general, William Tecumseh Sherman, would cut a path of destruction through the heart of the South. Sherman's march to the sea from Atlanta to Savannah was brutal, designed to break the South's economy and its will to fight. The siege of Petersburg, near the Confederate capital of Richmond, lasted 4 months. It was a grim, grinding war of attrition that bled Lee's army dry. Finally, on April 2nd, 1865, Lee was forced to abandon Richmond. A week later, on April 9th, surrounded with no hope of escape, General Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, Virginia. The terms of surrender were generous. Grant, following Lincoln's desire for a peaceful reconciliation, simply sent the Confederate soldiers home. The war was over. The Union had been preserved, but the joy was short-lived. Just 5 days after the surrender, President Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. The man who had steered the nation through its darkest hour would not live to see it fully healed. The end of the war ushered in the era of Reconstruction, a turbulent period of trying to rebuild the South and integrate millions of newly freed African Americans into society. It was a time of great hope and great struggle, with progress and bitter backlash. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments were passed, abolishing slavery, granting citizenship, and giving black men the right to vote. But the journey toward true equality would be long and fraught with challenges that continue to this day. The Civil War cost over 620,000 lives and left scars on the American landscape and psyche that took generations to heal. It was a brutal, devastating conflict. But out of that division, a new, more unified nation was born, a nation that, though still imperfect, was now officially and forever dedicated to the principle that all people are created equal. It was the moment America truly began to live up to its founding ideals. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through one of the most pivotal chapters in American history. If you found the story compelling, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world. Let us know in the comments what part of this history resonates with you the most. We'll see you in the next video.